Hello YouTube, it's Sierra and it's good to be back this week. This update is all about how to install brand new dreadlocks using the twist and rip method. For those of you that have been with my channel for a while, you've kind of had an idea that this is coming. It's something that we've talked about and it's something that you guys told me that you wanted to see. So here it finally is. For those of you that are just joining me for the very first time, I currently have a set of partial dreadlocks. I have 2 rows of dreadlocks in the very back of my head, and today I'm going to be installing a brand new row. So I'm glad that you've joined us. Okay, before we get started, I do want to cover a couple of things that you're going to need before you start installing dreadlocks. The very first thing that you need is prepped hair. So my hair especially, and any hair that needs dreadlocks, needs to be washed with residue-free shampoo before you get started, and that way anything that might be attached to the hair is gone and you start with really good, clean, gunk-free and residue-free dreadlocks. The next thing that you're going to need is a set of hands. Pretty self-explanatory. The last thing that you're going to need is going to be a crochet hook. Let me grab mine. So I'm talking about one of the really small crochet hooks here. My size is a 1.3 millimeter. Not sure if I can get this to focus or not, but it's not the very smallest that they make, but it's pretty close. Alright, so now that we've covered the supplies that you're going to need, let's just get rolling right into it. Alright, step number 1 when it comes to installing dreadlocks is all about the sections. The sections will determine how big your overall dreadlocks get. So the larger the section of hair, then the thicker the dreadlock. The smaller the section of hair, then the thinner the dreadlock will be in its mature form eventually. That being said, there are some people that choose not to section at all. It's called grab and go sectioning, where you just grab a section of hair and run with it. And that creates a very dynamic look with very unique dreadlock sizes. If you're looking for something more neat and tidy and uniform looking, then you're definitely going to want to section your dreadlocks before you start. Alright, step number 2 when installing dreadlocks, once you have your sections formed, before you actually start dreadlocking the hair, whether you're going with a back comb method or the twist and rip method, you're going to want to remove the rubber band. I know there's some people out there that are saying leave the rubber bands, and heck, some people do it for months, but I personally don't recommend it. Rubber bands on the hair will actually constrict how much the hair at the base of your scalp can move, and that movement amongst the hair is essential for knots actually forming and setting down in further down into your locks. So 1, it's kind of counterproductive to keep your hair banded at the base for too long. 2, if you leave it in there as you dreadlock, then there are chances that you form some knots over the rubber band and have to break those knots to then get the rubber band out. Finally, rubber bands can cause friction where they're installed at the hair. The longer you leave them in there, then the greater the chances are that you end up breaking a little bit of hair, which just isn't a good thing. So as you can tell, I am camp no rubber bands. If you choose to use them, I just ask that you do your research and make sure that that's the method that you want to go. For today's installation, I will be taking the rubber bands out before I actually start twisting and ripping each section. And now we're ready to get started installing dreadlocks. As I mentioned before, I'm going to be using the twist and rip method. And a big key to note with the twist and rip method is you don't want to over twist, that it will cause some gaps in your sectioning. And when you rip, you want to make sure you're ripping all the way down to the base each and every time. You want those knots to be as compressed as possible lengthwise. So the best way I know to show you is just to get started. So let's go. Alright, so before you actually start twisting and ripping, you're just going to double check the section, make sure there's no crazy hair coming in from anywhere unusual. In its section here, you are just going to twist once or twice, flatten out the section, and rip all the way up to the base here. Give it a good tug. You're going to put one section back over the top, give it one twist, and all the way up to the section, all the way up to the base there. So as you can see, I'm already starting to get some fuzz here at the base. And that is the start of our dreadlock. So in here you can start to see we've already got some good knots built up, some good fuzz built up. I'm going to come in here right now and make sure I pull this in several different directions all the way down to the base. We really want to make sure our knots are tight to the scalp here, especially in the beginning. So twist a couple of times, and I'm just talking a light twist. You know, here I put one piece back on top of the other, give it one spin, and rip. Now every once in a while you do want to kind of run your hand down the length here, and any of these wild and crazy long hairs, pull them back down and let them try to rip themselves back into the dreadlock. And I know right now it probably looks just like it's just a frizzy mess here, but there is a really tight string of knots right down in the center running the whole length so far. I also would think one of the biggest things to focus on when you are twisting and ripping is that you're grabbing different sections of hair to rip with each and every time. You don't want to keep the hair divided in the exact same place. Notice how I'm letting the hair completely go together each time and then resectioning it before I rip each and every time. And that's to make sure I'm ripping it at a different place. If I were to constantly keep the same sections of hair, I would in essence just be twisting the hair and wouldn't really be forming any knots as I went down the length with the process. Alrighty, so I will likely add more length to this dreadlock by continuing the rip and twist method, but since my hair has gotten so thin down here at the very ends, it's going to be a little bit more of a time involved process. It's just going to take a little bit longer. So in order to save your time and your attention span, I'm going to go ahead and show you how I use a crochet hook to tidy up this nice fuzzy bit to make it a little bit more compact. Alright, so what I do is I take all of this loose hair and I kind of start to wrap it around the dreadlock here. And I just wrap it over to one side and pinch it in between my fingers here. And once I've done that, I take my crochet hook and I slowly grab the hair that's pinched in between my fingers and just pull it down into the very center of the dreadlock. Right? Grab some more of the fuzz, wrap it around, check any neighboring hair, and then use the crochet hook gently to just pull in some of that big time frizz down into the center of the dreadlock. Grab a little bit of frizz and wrap. Keep it in between your fingers there. Now the reason why I keep it pinched between my fingers is because then it's very easy for my crochet hook to find where that loose hair is. Instead of just trying to stab at it and lose air there and missing more than I hit, I found this is a little bit more surefire way to make sure I'm getting some hair each time. So here I'm going to wrap all of this loose hair right around the dreadlock here, hold it between my fingers, and just pull it down back into the very center of the dreadlock here. Now I'm not trying to pull it all the way through. I don't want to risk breaking any of that hair, and since the knots aren't mature knots yet, they are still sliding a lot on the inside. So I'm literally just trying to pack as much hair and as many knots into the center of this dreadlock right now as I can. So we're just going to keep going down the length, twisting the frizzy hair and getting it pulled down into the center of the dreadlock. And sometimes you'll see you pull in a hair from who knows where down into like the medium length. Either pull it out if it'll pull out or break it off, but you definitely want to pull out any hairs that work their way in from other sections as soon as you can. And you'll see me, I kind of go down the dreadlock and then I come back up a little bit and then work my way back down it a little bit. There's no exact science on how to crochet the dreadlocks. The general idea is just to make sure you're pulling in, like I said, as much hair and making as many knots inside this dreadlock strand as you possibly can in the beginning. Alright, and we have worked it just about all the way down to the end there. One thing I am going to do is I'm going to give it a good palm roll. And there you have a baby dreadlock. Now you can see it's got tons of fuzzy hair coming out of it. And like I said, I'll be able to continue doing the twist and rip method to get a little bit more length of dreadlock and a little less length of loose hair down here, but I don't want to do that on film because it is such thin hair. I'm trying to speed up the process for you guys just a little bit. Once again, here's kind of a look. Now you can see I've got quite a bit of loose root here. I know a lot of people are really concerned when they start their dreadlocks that there's so much loose hair at the root. There's really not much you can do to avoid that. That's why you really want to make sure when you're doing the twist and rip method that you rip all the way down to the base every single time. You want to rip until you get resistance. And then that way you can ensure that you're getting as tight a knots to the base as possible. Also, since this is a brand new dreadlock, you see how stiff it is and how, I'll say, perky it is, how much it wants to sit up from the scalp, where some of my more mature dreadlocks have a little bit of weight now, and so they hang a little bit better. This is really, they're the stiffest the first few days, and as they go, they will definitely relax and start to lay down a little bit. So now that we have the first dreadlock done, I'm going to turn around and I'm going to get working on number 2 for you. Alrighty guys, and just like with the last dreadlock, my hair gets super thin down here at the ends, and so while I will take my time slowly extending these carefully with the twist and rip method so I don't break off all of this really thin hair, I am going to go ahead and once again crochet this super fuzzy dreadlock that we've started so you guys can see how that's done, but I'm also going to try to get some detail here so that you guys can see it. Alright, so I'm going to try to turn my back to you so that you can see a little bit better. Maybe we'll get some detail. Hopefully it stays in focus for you guys. And voila, new baby dreadlocks. So now that I've shown you the steps that it takes to install dreadlocks on loose hair using the twist and rip method, I'm actually going to jump off screen to take care of the rest of my head, and I'm going to be back in just a second to show you what all of them look like finished. Well, the entire row of new dreadlocks is installed. Woot woot! Yeah! Well, as you can see, all of my new dreadlocks are in, they're installed, and they are on their way. They have all been twisted and ripped. I have crocheted them down the length of what is the dreadlock that's been knotted. I've palm rolled them, and then I've also sprayed them with salt spray to help them start getting a little bit of friction and helping those knots to set in right here in the very beginning. I know that they do look significantly thinner than my other dreadlocks, but the good part is that's what the maturing process does, is you get to watch them go from this to this over time. So if you've enjoyed this video and the update on how to install brand new dreadlocks using the twist and rip method, then I would appreciate it if you considered subscribing, and as always, drop it a big thumbs up down below. If you have any questions about the process, about mature time, or just how to install dreadlocks in general, then please drop them down in the comments down below, and I'm happy to get those answers to you. Please keep in mind, guys, this isn't the only way to install dreadlocks. There are also other ways that you can do it. This is just my preferred method for my type of hair. If you're considering installing dreadlocks for yourself, then I would do the research to find out what you think works best for your hair so that when you get ready to install, you're good and comfortable with the process. All right, y'all, I appreciate y'all stopping in, tuning in, and hanging out all the way until the end. Until next time, I hope you take care, be well, and keep it simple.